So hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Leonard, and I am chair of the ECIS Library and Information Services Committee. Thank you very much for joining us today, and welcome to our first episode of the year of our webinar series, Lessons from the Library. Today's webinar is Student Agency in the School Library. And just to let you know, in case you can hear, apparently my apartment building decided to do some work right outside my door. So hopefully that's not coming through too much for you. I apologize for that. Anyway, today's webinar session will be recorded and available online for your viewing pleasure within the next few days. And we will share that out to everyone when it's available. We also will post links to it on our, try to post links to it on our webpage and our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. So you might catch it there as well. If you haven't joined us on our Facebook or LinkedIn groups yet, you're welcome to do so anytime. I will be posting those in the chat for people in case you need them. So during the webinar, your cameras can be on or off as you wish, but we ask that you please mute your audio. We encourage questions from the audience, and time will be allotted at the end of the presentation for Q&A and throughout, and I will be monitoring them. And I will also try to ask your questions as well throughout the thing as appropriate. And you can just put any questions you have during the sessions, you can just put them in the chat and I will catch them throughout the presentation, okay? And now, without any further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker, Osa Oyegun. Osa is the whole school librarian at the American International School of Abuja in Nigeria. She will talk about building library services and programming by providing opportunities for student agency within the school library. Osa is in her 15th year as an educator with over 12 years of experience teaching at the elementary and middle school level. She's very passionate about progressive, student-centered education, and she holds master's degrees in curriculum and instruction, and also library and information science. So welcome, Osa. Thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I'm really excited to be here. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Student Agency in the School Library. As Rebecca said, my name is Osa Oyegun, and this is actually my 17th year. I think I started putting this together a few years ago, and I couldn't remember. I spent several years teaching ESL across grade levels, being an elementary classroom teacher, and I'm now in my favorite place of all, the library. I am the preschool through grade 12 head of library at the American International School in Abuja. So just to tell you a little bit about my current setting, in case yours is similar, it may not be, but you may find some of this information helpful. ISA is in Abuja, which is Nigeria's capital city. We're an embassy-affiliated international school, and our families are embassy families from multinational organizations, NGOs, and local Nigerian families. It's a very diverse population, which makes us very lucky. And I try to build a collection that reflects that diversity. So why encourage student agency in the library? Well, when students take ownership over their learning and their environment, that translates into engaged and confident, independent learning. If you've ever been in a classroom where students have ownership, you can feel and hear the buzz of joyful learning. And that's the same in the library. That agency practiced every day turns into life skills. And we're going to delve a bit into what that looks like. And as Rebecca said, if you have any questions while I'm speaking, just put them in the chat, and I'll also take a midway break to answer more questions. So what does agency look like? It looks like students helping to make decisions about the library, students knowing what to do when they visit the library, and students being motivated to be in the library space. So student voice, independence, and motivation or engagement are what make agency possible. And the same is true for the classroom. If you have to teach library lessons, you can apply the same principles to the classroom. Oops. Skipped ahead a little too fast. So a little bit about what our library experience used to be like for students and for us, myself and my two assistants. It wasn't fun or joyful for anyone. And luckily, the changes that we made has changed all of that for students, for parents, for teachers, and librarians. So we're going to take a look at a few of those now. The first thing we did was to establish routines for students so that they would know what to do whenever they arrived for library lessons, which was not generally the case. And when students come for library lessons, the first thing they do is to enter the library quietly. We, myself and my assistants, depending on who is teaching a lesson that day, we walk outside of the library and meet them at the door. You can see the entrance at the very back of that photograph. We meet them outside the library and we just remind them about the routine and say, if you've got books to return, please bring them to the circulation desk and then go look for new books immediately. You've got 10 minutes to browse. And when they're finished browsing for books and have found new books to borrow, they put their library card, which is sort of shelf markers that we've made with the student barcodes on them. And they just slip it into the top book in their pile and place it at the circulation desk. And then they enter the library classroom. Now, it's really important that they follow this routine because we have 30 minutes from start to finish. So they have 10 minutes for browsing and borrowing books. And then we have maybe about 20 minutes in the library classroom. And while that librarian is teaching in the classroom, someone else is at the circulation desk checking out books to students. We are very lucky that we have that kind of support. I know not every librarian has that, but it works really well for us because at the end of the lesson, we come out, whoever's teaching goes and collects the books, calls out students, hands the books back, and they walk straight back to the back of the exit to the back of the library and wait for everyone to be finished. And then they leave together as a class, still maintaining that, that library silence or respectful voices in the library. So this is just one of the routines that we have put in place that has made the library experience a little bit more just not only engaging, it's just when they're there to browse books and borrow books, it's so much nicer for them. And they have said it used to be very chaotic before, and now they enjoy it a whole lot more. So your routine does not have to mirror mine to work, but just putting any sort of routines in place will help make the library experience so much better for your students, especially if you have kids coming, joining your class or your library, your school in the middle of the year. When they haven't been there before, it'll be easier for them. Another thing we did was to genreify our entire library. We had a collection of 20,000 items. And during the process of genreifying the books, I also weeded, the old damaged whatever it was that no longer fit in our collection. So now we're down to 18,000, which is still a lot. But it was a major undertaking, really, because our kids and our teachers could not find the books they wanted to find. And if I'm honest, we couldn't find them either. Because when someone comes and picks up a book from the shelf, they did not necessarily always put it back where they'd found it. They just sort of hide books in between other books. I'm sure everyone has had that experience as well. So I began the process of genreifying our collection last year. and I'm almost completely finished with that. I've only got, I think, middle school and high school fiction to do. Everywhere else is completely organized. And in this photograph, you see a photo of our Everybody chapter book series section. And all these labels on the baskets are a picture and title of the book series. And so that tells students what they're going to find in that basket. And it makes it really, really easy for them to go around the library and find what they're looking for. And then in terms of the labels on the shelf lips, we started teaching the kids to start learning how to differentiate between different genres. You know, what are you looking for? Do you like stories that can happen in real life? Well, go to the realistic fiction section. So just making sure that the kids are familiar with what is in the library has made such a huge difference in terms of them deciding to choose books for their own enjoyment and thinking about what it is they enjoy and what they're going to choose. So I'm going to take a short break here for questions. Any questions so far?
Nothing currently in the chat unless someone wants to pop one in.
Okay. I think I'll go on then.
Okay. Oh, wait, here's one. What
Okay.
was the timeline for enacting change? This is from Rachel.
Rachel, do you mean about everything or just generifying the collection?
She says, getting everything genred.
Um, well, I'm still not finished, but for everything, I would say because you're teaching and doing other things altogether, maybe about 3 to 4 months. It could get done much sooner with zero interruptions. I've read about people who've done it within weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So it really depends on um, how big your collection is, the state of the collection, and what your other responsibilities are. And if you have help doing it, because I'm doing it all by myself. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's a couple popping in here. 1 second. Yes, the presentation will be shared afterwards. That's for Rania. So Carla says that she is opening a library in her school and organizing everything. They have a small space and she thought to organize fiction by author alphabetically. They have a younger picture book section also. We are calling this illustrated books. Advice?
Simplify it. The simpler, the better. You are marketing books to children. So I would say use language that you think the children would be most familiar with. Picture books are picture books, right? So I would change illustrative to picture books. And then if you can, put those by, or organize those by topic. So we have a really, really large picture book section, and we've, separated the fairy tales from the fables, myths and legends, because teachers sometimes have units that they're teaching towards those. So it helps the teachers as well. So whatever you can do, we have social themes, friendship, loneliness, things like that. We have books on families, books about me, like feeling good about yourself, things like that. If you can organize the books into topics or sections that the children can immediately relate to, it'll make it that much easier for them to find books that they're interested in and to come back and be comfortable and just borrow over and over again, because that's what we're trying to do, is to put books in their hands and get them reading.
Yeah, Carla says that they feared the older students would avoid these, and they tend to call them baby books, and they were hoping to avoid that.
Yeah, that's a common misconception about picture books. I've actually been thinking about that recently, that it's not only the older children who feel that way, but teachers often feel that way as well. And what I find interesting is that when I'm organizing picture books or looking through them, for example, our orders have just come in. We bought some new picture books. As a teacher, I'll often notice the reading level. For example, the Fontes and Pinnell reading level, it'll say level N. That's not a little kid level. That's a mature reading level for someone who is not learning how to read. So I think maybe at the beginning of the year, sort of introducing the concept of picture books being there to teach about a certain topic or a concept, and that picture books are for everyone. And then choose a couple of picture books that are really good examples of what that is, as well as, show the book to them, hold it up and say, does this language look like something that is geared towards little kids? Just to help both the children and the teachers understand that picture books are for everyone, because they really are. And they help to explain really complex concepts in a very simple way.
Okay, we have another question from Catherine, who asked, what did you do with the books you weeded?
Sorry about that. I donated some of them. I looked through, oh, so sorry. Let's go back here. I donated some of the books to the local library. And then I gave the rest of them to an NGO that works with public schools here. The public schools are not very well funded. And so we work with a small organization that donates books to public schools. And our third resource, which I think we started towards the end of last year, was to create a free library. And I know they're normally a little free library, but we have a student population of about 400 plus. And I wanted the free library, to be big enough for everyone in our community. And so we made it quite tall, with each shelf being for like a certain category. Like the lowest shelf is for board books, the next shelf up is for picture books, the next one for chapter books, all the way up to adults. So we put some books there, and then we chose books that we thought, the more academic ones, those could go to schools, and put those aside for the NGO. And then that's just a constant thing that we're doing, constantly weeding, putting them away in boxes. When the boxes are full, then we call the city library or the NGO people to come collect them.
Okay, we have another question from Paula. She says, it really helped me getting the school collections genrefied. It took a few weeks for the students to get used to it. However, is it possible to consider that it'll always be changing due to the additions or weeding? And then any ideas on topics that form permanent collections?
I think that, first of all, it will constantly change, but not to the degree that you think it will. With the new books that we purchased for this year, for example, my main concern is having enough room to add to what's already there. Are really, really large and well stocked. So the issue we face now is, do we buy new books for next year, since we've got quite a lot right now? And if we do buy new books, where are we going to put them? Because our library space is not that large. It's just one big open space for the entire school. What was the second part of the question?
It was any ideas on topics that form permanent collections?
Topics that form permanent collections. In terms of picture books, friendship, that's a recurring theme I see, family, um, cultural competence, things like how important names are, how important traditions and customs are. Those are always coming up in picture books. But there's a wide range. I think what you have to do is look at what's in your collection and see which books are alike, and then sort of sort through them and see which words seem to fit all of them.
Okay, we had another question from Abba. How do you deal with the conflict between genres while organizing them genre-wise?
I spend a lot of time consulting other sources. So when my head of school says, wait, aren't you done sorting these books yet? I kind of give him a dirty look. So like, no, I'm not done. It's not just like, I think it goes here and I think it goes there. I have to be really thoughtful and considerate about it. So I'll look on library thing, fantasticfiction.com, if I think it's a book series, because sometimes they don't put, they don't say it on the book cover or even on the spine. This is book one of such and such series. Or Kirkus reviews, sometimes even Amazon. I just look everywhere for the books that really stump me, because I want to be sure that I've put it in the right place for the children and the teachers and the parents to find. So it's not about what I think, it's about where are they most likely to go looking for this book. So it has to be easy for them to find as well as easy for me to put away. So genreification is really about making it easy for your users, for your library users, to find books.
Okay, Jane asks, do you have advice for establishing routines or processes in secondary school when we don't have library lessons?
Yes, they are challenging, aren't they? Because, they're older and they're cooler, and it's really cool not to listen to the librarians when they come to the library, sometimes. We had an issue with that last year and the previous years as well. It really helps if you have supportive teachers and supportive admin. And we have a new middle and high school principal this year. And I noticed that he created a section for the library in his newsletter, as well as for the counselors and all the other support staff, specialists. And in it, I can share news about the library. And so from the beginning of the year, I was able to to share with everyone what the rules of the library are, what they can use the library for. And then the students have advisory sessions with their teachers. And I was able to share with their advisors, hey, this is the library orientation for the kids. Please share this with them during your very first week of school, so that they understand what library expectations are, and what's possible to do in the library and what's not. And I could tell that everyone did this, because now when they come in respectfully. We don't allow food or drink in our library. So that's just gone down a ton. Like, nobody tries to do it except for a few kids. So just having people who are willing to collaborate with you and work with you, I think, makes the biggest difference, because otherwise you're just doing this on your own. And another thing I did that was helpful was, before school began, we have the new teacher orientation and then the all staff orientation. I presented at both of those orientations to the new teachers, introducing them to the library and how the library could support them in their work and what we do. And then I presented to the whole staff, again, telling them about what our rules and expectations are for the kids when they're in the library, and what happens when they do not follow our rules. For example, if they're eating or drinking drinks other than water, here we say, please come back tomorrow. That's really it. And that's all that's needed, because they really, really want to be in the library and be with their friends. They come here to relax. So once we've said that, they're very unlikely to, to break the rules again. sharing all of that information with the teachers ahead of time makes it easier to then enforce those rules, because they can go and tell another story to the principal, tell another story to their teachers. But now that the teachers and the principal have heard it directly from us, we're all on the same side, and there's very little room for confusion.
Okay, we have another question from Darren, who wonders if, with genrifying, if you had any issues with pupils who liked a particular author, if the author wrote across different genres, so their books might be separated.
Yes, we have, I mean, we didn't have anyone complain about that. We did have sort of mild grumbling about how some people liked the old system, the old Dewey system, and I had to explain, well, all the research is showing that gentrification increases circulation and just makes life easier in general. Out of the new books that we've received, because it's been months and months, because we can't buy books locally, they have to be shipped from the US, and so it takes months before we see them. So an author like Grace Lin, who writes for little kids and big kids, her books are just scattered all around the library. So she writes picture books, she writes nonfiction, like Chinese Menu, which is, about the mythology of Chinese food, and includes like folk tales. And she writes chapter books as well for, for elementary and middle and high school. So she's just one of those authors who we think, where does this book go? We have to put it in this section because this is where it fits. And we haven't had an issue with it.
Okay, and then Carla asked if you would share your genre groups, as she's a new librarian and hasn't had training before.
I am happy to send a list.
I think we can share that out. Like if you send it to me, I think we can send it out with the recording and that sort of thing, if you like.
Absolutely, no problem.
And I think we're all caught up on, oh wait, here's another one. So do you have advice for establishing routines or processes in secondary school when we do, oh, I already asked that one. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Replies are throwing me off. All right, I think we're all caught up.
Okay. Okay. So the only thing I'll say about routines in secondary when you don't have lessons with them is really just remind them about the rules and be really gentle, but also establish relationships with them. I think that's also helped, not just sharing the rules of the library, but establishing relationships with them, because once they know who you are, it's easier for them to want to be in that space and to want to listen to you. And the only way that you can do this is to just, learn their names, try to ask them about what they'd like from the library, try to engage them in conversations. Well, there's another thing that we do, but I'll share that later. All right. So in order to genrify our collection, I also had to change all the sublocations so that to make it easier for everyone to find what they were looking for. One of the things that we do is that we teach the children how to look in the catalog and how to find the sublocations of books. So here are some of our sections, actually just one section. This is a book series. It's a chapter book series. And if you were searching for it, sublocation, it would say E for everybody, adventure 6. And 6 is the corresponding shelf number. We placed numbers on all of the shelves to make it easier for our library users to find the books. So in terms of naming your sublocations, you want to make it as simple as possible, to make it and to name them words that even our youngest readers can understand. So E for everybody. We had to teach this in library lessons. E is for everybody. Adventure shelf 6.
Osa, just
Yes.
one quick, are we still supposed to be on the question slide?
Are we? Are there more questions?
Well, we're just seeing the question slide, so we're wondering if this, because you were talking about the E for everybody. We weren't sure if,
Oh, let me go back. Somehow it's, you should be seeing here. You should be seeing my sublocations screen. It's paused for some reason. All right, let's try again. Can you see it now?
yeah, sublocations. Okay,
Ah,
great.
okay. I'll do that again.
Mhm.
All right, so I went in to Destiny, we use Destiny, and changed all the sublocation names. And I had to make them very simple so that even our youngest readers could understand where to find them. You'll see the corresponding number on the shelf. E for everybody, adventure genre, shelf number 6. So the first thing they do is they look for the shelf number. I'll go to shelf number 6. I'll look for where it says adventure, and then I'll find the label that says Humphrey, because that really simplifies it for them. And it's just cut down their browsing time, which has been amazing. All right, so as I said, we teach all the kids to know how to look for a book in the library catalog, which is Destiny. The way it used to be before, they'd walk around the library and then they'd come back to us and say, do you have such and such book, books 4 and 5 and 6? And I go, well, I don't know. Why don't we go take a look? And so now, before asking the librarians, they know to go to these iPads, which we have mounted on the walls. We have about 4 of them, I think, 3 or 4 of them. And they look in the catalog and then basically find the sublocations of the book. And they're so good at this now. It's really amazing. But even if they still need help, they know that now they can go to the librarian to ask for help because they tried looking for it. So part of what we do is trying to set them up to be thinking about what they're looking for, when they need help, if they need help. And they can always come and ask us for help. If they don't know what to read and what to look for, they can browse the read-alike menu, which I got from the Book Wrangler. And then we have these baskets littered, or I'm just gonna move this. We have these baskets littered around the library. Can you see them?
Yeah, I can see you have the slide set up for independence, catalog,
Okay.
read menu, and your mind basket.
Okay, yeah. So it's the I changed my mind basket, and we have them all around the library for when they pick up a book or two and they decide not to borrow the book. So instead of placing the books, hiding them on a shelf somewhere, they just put them in the baskets. So we have tried to teach them and the whole population, this is a kinder way of being in the library, because if you put a book in a random shelf, we're not going to find it again unless we happen to be passing by the shelf or until we're reorganizing the entire library. So just making that part of our lessons and saying, here's how you can help. You can put it in the basket, or if you don't see a basket, honestly, you can leave it on a table or on a rug, because that's a much kinder way of helping us organize the books.
We also have another question from Abba, who asks if you could please explain a little bit more about the read-alike menu.
Absolutely. So this is a menu put together by the Book Wrangler. He's on Instagram and on Facebook, I believe. And he used to have a website. I'm not sure it's still there. But a read-alike menu is, you see at the bottom of the left page there, it says, if you liked the crossover, then all of these books at the top are similar to that book. and you may want to check them out. And for the longest time, I didn't put this up because we don't have all of the books. It takes us such a long time to be able to, place an order for a book and then have it arrive here, because we order all our books from the US, and then everyone's placing orders at the same time, the teachers, the admin staff, and they're sent here by shipping companies. So I didn't want to put a read-alike menu together, because I was worried that us not having the books would put the kids off. But what I finally decided to do, and it's been working really well, is to put it out there and then have kids say, do we have this book? And we go look together. And if we don't have the book, then I purchase the digital version on Sora and then make a note to purchase the physical book, the print version, for the following year, or if I happen to find it in a bookstore here. So it really depends. But what it's done is it's made it possible for the kids to practice knowing, all right, I don't know what I'm in the mood for, so I'm going to go and look at this book magazine, if you will, and just get an idea of what sounds good to me right now. And the other thing we did, that made a big difference, because we didn't really have them before, was to put up these big signs all over, to sort of, help our library users orient themselves. Oh, by the way, we separated the adult books from the middle and high school section because one, it was just overstuffed. And it seemed, because we wanted to be able to invite the parents and the adults in the school community to borrow books, it was just a really nice way of creating a section just for them. So we created these large signs that told everyone what they could find where. We no longer have those DVDs, by the way. We tried to circulate them for about a year and nobody borrowed them. So we ended up weeding them all. Signage is a huge thing. And then labels, these labels that you see on the series baskets, that's been the other very, very helpful way of making it possible for people to find what they're looking for. So the labels in combination with the shelf numbers, you see that's a shelf 13 there. Every single shelf has a shelf number. And this is the everybody section. So the numbers are really, really helpful here. So this is just a little bit of marketing for the books in our middle and high school section. On the other side of the library, in the everybody section, all the books are in baskets or shelves that that function like baskets. But in the middle and high school section and in the adult and professional sections, we've left the books using the Dewey Decimal System. But we wanted to change something about how we present them to our users. Like I said, the shelves used to be just really stuffed, which made it difficult for library users, to walk over to a shelf and pick up a book that they like. So we started doing dynamic shelving, which is, like when you go to Barnes and Noble or any of those bookstores, Borders, you'll see that they place a book facing out with the cover facing out, and that's to make you stop at that shelf and pick up the book and just see if it's something that you would like to read. So whenever we are shelving books or walking by a shelf, we take a quick look and make sure that there's an interesting looking book on every single shelf, or that the shelf is organized in a way that draws the readers in. So I see a shelf there, number 7. Someone's picked up the book that was facing out, which means we're doing okay. So student voice is, I would say, probably the most important part of what we're doing in the library. And it creates greater engagement in terms of, having the kids care about what happens in the library. It isn't always easy to figure out what they want. And so what I started last year was to create these groups for the middle and high school kids. We called it the Readers Advisory Council. And what the council does is that we meet regularly, and students share ideas about what they think their peers would find engaging in terms of, how they can engage with the library. We come up with contests ideas, or they come up with contest ideas. They make book talk videos. They came up with an idea for a suggestions box for the front of the library in case there are kids who, they have an idea, but they don't really feel comfortable coming to the library to share their ideas in person. They make posters for the contests and for whatever else is going on. So this has been a really, really nice way of engaging the kids in the middle and high school. And yeah, it's been really lovely. For the little kids, we have the junior Friends of the Library, which is for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it's pretty much the same idea, except I run it as an after-school activity. And during our first year, I asked them what they wanted to do, and they had all of these ideas, like we want to be junior librarians. Yeah, we want to organize the library. We want to check out books. So just all sorts of things. We've done a little bit of everything that they've wanted to do. They've helped to organize books. We've talked about, what being a librarian is like. We've done crafts, for the month of October. We'll make like corner bookmarks with like a black cat and just all sorts of October craft things. We read together, and then we try to come up with more engaging things to do, activities to do in the library. And there's one more group that I created that I haven't shared here because this is really about student agency in the library. But we have a junior Friends of the Library, but we also have a Friends of the Library group, which is for parent volunteers. And they have been really helpful as well. It's essentially the parent version of the junior Friends of the Library. They come in and they decorate the library for events. We celebrated Nigeria's Independence Day on October 1st. They came in and decorated the whole library for that. When we have our book fairs, they come in and they read to students in the library. So they're really, really important part of our community because they love books, they love reading, and they want the kids to love them as well. So, student voice, student independence, and student engagement are the three things that we have found to really work in terms of changing how we want our community to engage with the library, but most definitely the children. How do we want them to engage with the library? Where do we want their presence to be felt? Everywhere. But more importantly, we want it to be felt in a positive way. And when they're engaged and when they have ownership over the space, coming up with ideas for contests, helping us decide how to organize the library, then they're more caring towards the library, and they talk to their friends about being the same way. So here are a few resources that I have used. I'm going to share them as well later on with links. But if you have any more questions, I am happy to answer them here, as well as via email. Here's my email address, oyegun@gmail.com. Thank you very much for joining me. And I'm happy to answer more questions if you have them.
Okay, nothing at the moment. I think we're all caught up.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments about things that are happening in their library? What do you do for engagement? Do you have any student helpers?
Thank you. Rena says, yes, more library learning, please. Nail is asking if you can share all your links as well.
Absolutely.
I think we can probably share that out with the other documents also.
Yes.
Here's a question from Melanie. Do you run all advisory groups or are those roles split amongst other library staff?
I run all of them, and the reason is there are three of us in the library. I'm the head of library, and then I have two assistants. And I run them because, they were new last year, and I wanted to sort of, I needed to know how it would go, and whether it would be worth continuing. And they have been, especially with the junior friends of the library, the kids expect it now, which is really, really wonderful. And then for the Readers Advisory Council for the older kids, I continue to run it. It's a bit challenging because I'm competing with other after-school activities, but I have the support of the principal, so I think it'll be fine. And then the parent group, last year we met weekly, and that was really rather overwhelming. So this year we meet, on the last Tuesday of every month, and that gives me and them some breathing room because everyone's busy. But I don't want anyone to feel guilty for missing a volunteer meeting. So I run all of them, but sort of try to make it balanced.
Yeah, Rena says that instead of student advisory council, SAC, she has interns. It's similar idea, but during class time. And middle school kids come during WIN block, and grade 11 and 12 come during an internship class time. And they shape how they want it to be. Both groups create a survey for their peers and then help to analyze the data to see how to improve the library services.
I really, really like that idea, and I may steal it. Rena, is this the Rena I know?
Yes, it's me. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. So I'm in the library. It's like our busiest block right now. So it's very loud.
Oh, okay, no problem. I'm in my office and locked myself in. Yeah, I'm gonna contact you about that. I really like that idea because I think that's them having even more ownership over what they're doing, and that might take care of my timing issue. So yeah, I'll contact you and try to do the same thing over here.
Yes, please feel free.
And we have a question from Carla. How much time per week do primary classes have?
So it used to be that grades 3, 4, and 5 had 45-minute lessons every week, but now it's been changed to 30 minutes because they got a new math curriculum and the principal took the time from library lessons. So now preschool through grade 5 have 30-minute lessons, and what that is 10 minutes for browsing and borrowing books. And then if you're lucky, 20 minutes together in the classroom. So of course, what that does is change what you're able to do with in the classroom. And you really have to slow down your curriculum if you have one, and sort of choose the essentials in terms of what you want to do with them in the classroom, like what is most important. Of course, reading is most important. Teaching them about the library is most important. And then just repeating it over and over again because you haven't had a proper lesson with them for them to remember what you're teaching. We started the year for the first time with audiobooks, and they have all really loved it because we have audiobooks, but in the past they never really used them as a resource. So we introduced it in our lessons with grades 3 to 5. You know, I chose a chapter book and we listen to a chapter every week. And while they're listening, they color. So it's um, a very calm class. You know, they're practicing fine motor skills as well as listening and understanding skills. So yeah, you do what you can, but just make sure there's consistency.
And I think Carla has a quick follow-up question to that she does not have a curriculum. So what do you suggest?
So I could say, you know, there are librarians out there who have curriculums and can sell them to you on teacherspayteachers.com, or you know, you can find them on Instagram, and they're really good programs. But at the end of the day, I would say think about what you want them to know. You know, you can look at the AASL framework. I also use Future Ready Librarians to guide my work. And looking at those two things, you can think about what your students know and what they need and decide what to focus on. So my students, for example, need to practice critical thinking quite a bit, right? And so I try to do things with them that'll help them practice that. So during our audiobook lessons, you know, at the end of the lesson, we talk about what we've just heard in terms of the chapter we've listened to and why do we think this is. The same way you would do when you're reading a book with them. Just giving them opportunities to practice critical thinking, all the opportunities they have for being independent in the library, that's them practicing critical thinking. So you can follow the frameworks, you can buy ready-made lessons from these librarians, and often those lessons are tailored to the standards as well, the AASL standards, or you can create your own slowly. So you can't go wrong. It really depends on what you're comfortable doing and what your experience has been.
And Nayla asks if you can share any effective lessons to execute.
Yes, but on what?
See if they respond.
Yeah, if you send me an email, I can share what I have or what I recommend.
And Lisa says, thank you so much, Osa. What topics do you cover in your lessons?
We just wrapped up the audiobook lessons, and now we are focusing on nonfiction books because Halloween's coming up. So, and the teachers want us to focus on nonfiction books, preferably books that are not about animals. So right now for grades 3, 4, and 5, we are reading Halloween Is by Gail Gibbons. And this is a very vocabulary rich book. And so we're using that as an opportunity to notice words that are new to us and discuss what we think they mean and looking at the spelling and things like that.
Okay, and then I think a couple people asked if you could share your email. I think it was on one of your slides, right? Could you go back?
Yes, it is. Let me go back right here. It's oyegun@gmail.com.
And another person asked, I can answer this one. If their school isn't an ECIS member, can you still present as well? Definitely. Yeah, we would love to have any and all proposals that you have for presentations. And it doesn't have to be a webinar either. If a panel or something idea that you have, pitch it to us and we'll take a look at it. And then let's see. I think we have time for a couple more questions before we end here. Lots of great stuff. Osa, there's so much going on in the chat. Like, it's great. Your ideas and everything instigated lots of conversations and ideas and sharing of resources and stuff. It's been really great.
Wow.
So Carla says maybe seeing one or two of your lessons in writing, newbie like herself will have a better understanding of time and topic.
No problem.
And I can put the email in the chat here as well, in case you
Yes,
can't
please.
see the screen. Okay. And Darren asks, I wondered if you ever had difficulties getting parity of esteem for library lessons from teaching colleagues.
Parity of esteem. What do you mean? Like being treated with respect?
I'll just say it vocally if that's okay, rather than
Sure.
rather than
Yes,
type
please.
words. I just found that sometimes when I was a school librarian, I sometimes found that some teaching colleagues treated like time in the library or like library lessons as being almost filler or almost sort of like not as academic as some of the other classes, as say an English class or a maths class. So I just wondered if you'd ever experienced anything like that, or if you had, how you got through that.
Yes, I will say that some of my colleagues are that way or give me the impression that that is what they think. Um, and that's why I think it's really important to orient them to the library at the beginning of the year to frequently share resources. And I do an annual report for the whole community because I need them to know that I'm not just sitting in my office reading a book. I wish. But I need them to know that this is, there's research behind having a school library or having libraries, and that the research shows that the library supports what they're doing. And that when I reach out, reach out to them, that's an opportunity for them to collaborate with me because it actually makes their work a whole lot easier. So I go into classrooms and I remind them that I'm here and available for collaboration, particularly the middle and high school kids. I ask teachers about the units they're teaching that are research heavy, and can I help them with teaching the kids research skills or, helping them go through the process. And just reminding them that we're here for the whole experience. But there'll always be a few who sort of think of library as a free-for-all or as something that is not as heavy or as important as what they do. That's not really my concern. My concern is to just come and do my job and share what I'm doing with everyone.
Yeah, so, and Paula asks, I wonder myself where and what to study to become a formal librarian. I would like to know about your experience.
All right, so I am completing a Master's of Library and Information Science at the San Jose State University. That's actually where I know Rena from. We did the same program and we worked on a class together. I really enjoyed the program. You can look in your local community at the programs there and see what works for you. But this one worked for me because I knew I was transitioning to the school library from the classroom, but I really had no idea about what librarianship was until I began the program. And what I really liked about this program is how it opened my eyes to the broadness of the field and the range of careers that you could have. I mean, librarianship is such a broad field. You have user experience, you have data science, all sorts of things that you can do. You have archives. So I did not follow the school librarianship pathway because a lot of it was teaching you how to manage behaviors and just things that I had already learned from my first master's in education. So I was able to take classes based on my interests, and that really worked well for me. So I recommend just looking up all the different programs, joining librarian groups on Facebook and asking for recommendations, and then seeing which ones you find are a good fit for you.
So I think that's all the time we have for questions today. I almost lost track of time there. But thank you so much, Osa, for sharing your experiences. It's been really great. I think everyone is walking away with lots of new ideas to take away and to try. So thank you so much. There were lots of thank yous in the chat as well. So, but before everyone goes, just remember, in case you didn't see the messages, that the committee, the ECIS Library Committee, would love to hear your feedback about the webinar, and we'll share that with Osa as well. So if you don't mind completing the feedback form I posted in chat, this will help us not only improve our webinars, but also give you events and things that you want and that you enjoy and that support your daily practices. Okay. The ECIS Library Committee is also looking for additional webinar proposals, and eventually we're going to be posting proposal requests for our upcoming conference as well. So please consider sending us in your ideas, okay? The link for the webinar proposals is also in the chat. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming and attending, and thank you so much, Osa. And we hope to see you next time.